everybody. We are still on our video series of how not to become a crime statistic in South Africa, how to make yourself less of a target. And we are talking again to Dion from Fortis Proactive Defense Solutions. And we're looking at the 5 aspects that you need to look at when preparing yourself and preventing yourself from becoming a crime statistic. First off, we talked about accepting a responsibility and then becoming prepared. And then today we're going to talk about you must stop assuming that you know what's going to happen. And then we're going to look at kit and training later on. But if you missed any of the previous videos, they will be linked down below. And let's get it to it. Dion, people are assuming things. What do you mean by that?
People are making asses out of you and me.
Yeah, assume.
Yeah, we all know what assume stands for, making an ass out of you and me. And I think in that lies one of the biggest issues in this whole process of mind-changing paradigm shift. So a person has now realized that he or she is responsible for his own safety. And then they've started gaining knowledge, and that obviously should then lead to the next step, because the moment you start gaining knowledge, you will stop assuming. Let me give a real life example. Someone shoots an intruder and he kills that intruder. Now the news will immediately report something like farmer will face murder trial. And then everybody on social media will immediately assume that this farmer will now end up with a life sentence in jail because they are coming for us. Okay. So let's unpack this scenario. Firstly, if you gain knowledge and you've now read up on the Criminal Procedure Act and the Firearms Control Act, you will know that it is standard procedure in South African law that a case of either murder or manslaughter is open once you kill somebody. So if you take your firearm and you shoot somebody, if it is a self-defense, doesn't matter what, docket will be open, a case will be opened. This is normal, all right? It's standard procedure. That's what is supposed to happen. It's not abnormal. So the SAPs are just doing what they are required to do by law. They will be opening the docket, and the case will then be handed over to an investigating officer, who will obviously start investigating what happened there. So the first officers on the scene are usually uniformed police, and they follow a standard procedure. They open the docket and it's handed over to an investigating officer. All right, so now also if you've read up on the Firearm Controls Act and the Criminal Procedures Act, you will know that you are legally within your rights to defend yourself by taking a life if certain conditions are met, like not shooting somebody in the back when they run away. So I'm not going to unpack what those conditions are. You can find that in this Criminal Procedures Act, that's fine. So time will now pass in which the investigating officer will obviously start investigating this case and unpacking it. And depending on a variety of things, the case may be closed as a simple case of self-defense, or the case could end up in court where the shooter will then have to prove why he killed the intruder. Remember, somebody stealing your vehicle outside at 2 a.m. is not threatening your life, so you cannot just take their lives. Okay, so for instance. So let's take this one step further. The media is doing just what it does. They thrive on sensation, so they write a headline, and it's a shitty headline at that. And the public will share and share and share, like in our example. All right, so everybody now shares this headline as gospel and then add a little story to that, like, oh, look here, see how the poor farmers are not allowed to defend themselves, and stuff like, oh, this poor man will now end up in jail and face a murder trial, and so on and so on and so forth. But even worse, that most people will take the little story and then take that story as gospel. So they'll start telling this shit around the braai vleis feed, around the fire and with their friends and so forth. about how they are coming for us. So this is the knock-on effect of assuming. So if we assume that this person is guilty before whatever, just because that's what's been posted in the media, we assume that this is what's going to happen because we don't have knowledge of the CPO or the FCA. Then it has this knock-on effect where we start spreading the lie as gospel.
And the media can lie. I used to, when I worked in the Defence Force, provide first-hand information to the media as a media liaison at one point in my career. And I would give them the information on black and white, and they would still get it wrong in the news. They would still fudge the numbers or the figures or the facts, even though they got first-handed from me, you know. So, yeah, the fact that the media gets it wrong and outright lies, it's not fiction.
Exactly that, you know. And I mean, they need to sell newspapers. That's what they need to do, and that thrives on sensation. So if you are one of those clowns that keeps sharing these stories without checking the facts, then please hear me. You are not helping. You are spreading fear. You are spreading dissent. You are spreading animosity. You are an idiot. Yes, you are an idiot. You may think you are a know-it-all, but you are not. You are not helping. So stop it. Just stop it. Right. So another example is when people look at a stock theft case, for example. So let's say on Facebook, the advice that people give is mind-blowing, ranging from shoot them on sight, feed them to the crocodiles, skin them alive, and everything in between that. And although I do understand the sentiment, I've been in the game for 24 years and I've seen the worst of the worst. I do understand the sentiment. It's a load of bullshit, okay? So it's another clear example of assumption at work because people don't get the complexity of the crime, nor do they understand how to protect yourself legally. What can I do to safeguard myself while staying within the law? So to all these warriors that give all this advice, I would love to challenge them. Please take the lead on your advice, okay? So you be the person to go and shoot them on sight. You take your firearm and then go and shoot them on sight. Or you are the person to go and find them and feed them to the crocodiles. Or you are the one to take your knife and skin them alive. I dare you. Okay. If you don't have the guts, zip it. And please sit down in your corner and shut up. So in the above example, you know, you can see the moment you start gaining knowledge, it will lead to stop assuming, because you'll stop assuming that this is what's going to happen. You will know what's going to happen. You'll know why stuff happens. And because once you know what you can legally do, you will not give shitty advice. And you will also not fall for the sensation given out by the media. Knowledge is power. It comes back to that. And I think knowledge will empower you to stop this assumption drive that you're on.
Look, we understand social media is often used as a vent for the emotional reaction that these atrocities bring. But people really have to think twice before they vent themselves on social media. There's sometimes legal consequences to just venting your, calling for murder and things like that. Over and above that, it's stupid advice. Right, but people need to mind that. But Dion, what other ways would you say assumption is hindering people in getting to the next step in preparing and defending themselves?
I think in a way, the other part to assumption is that people start overestimating themselves, their skills and their abilities. You know, we're back into the I was in the army thing. Or they underestimate their enemies, or they underestimate themselves. So let's start with this they say, it's always they say, but they say, if you burn a CD, they burn a CD and they make you sleep, and they say. I mean, we've got a video on our Facebook page, and I shared another video the other day just with a little snippet of that as well, where we actually tried burning a CD. If you can't get the CD to burn, it's just plastic. It's doing that. The CD that will make you sleep is a Justin Bieber CD if you play it.
Sounds of the Ocean CD.
But they say that they burn CDs to make us sleep. They say so.
And
We
they, and
start
they,
assuming.
and it's like gospel. Some people fully, truly believe that it happened to someone they know who
Yes,
knows somebody.
exactly. And people got into deep arguments with us about that CD thing, where we say to them, "There's the video. That's what we did." So I will even buy you a CD. I will give you a CD. I will provide you with matches and a lighter and whatever. And if you can get that thing to burn and then fall asleep from that, then I will take my words. I will eat my words. But nobody to date could do that. So I would just love to know who are they? Who are they? Because I would love to meet them. Because so as soon as somebody says they say, or they are coming for us, or they, or I stop listening. Because to me that's just hearsay. That's all it is. I overheard my dentist say that he heard his neighbors say that he was driving past somebody who was telling somebody over the phone. It's bullshit. I just don't listen to that. So now things like they say it's impossible to get a gun license, for instance, and then people believe this. I mean, on so many groups on a daily basis, people say, what a pity that farmers are not allowed to defend themselves. That's bullshit. We are allowed to defend ourselves. We are allowed to buy more than one firearm. We are allowed to use that firearm to defend ourselves. It's drivel that people come with. Right. So instead of reading up and asking the right questions from the right people, they then assume. And then they fall into misery and despair and hopelessness. That's what it leads to. So can those spreaders of bullshit now see how you contribute to the negativity? So if you are one of the people that say, but they say you are not allowed to defend yourself, then you are one of the spreaders of bullshit, because then you are talking bullshit. You haven't read up on the FCA, you haven't read up on the CPA, so just stop that. Now, once you realize that you are legally allowed to defend yourself, once again, read the CPA, read the FCA, and you are now legally allowed to carry and use your firearm, then you free yourself from a lot of nonsense. That's that empowerment that you've been talking about. You become empowered. You've moved from a mindset of being a victim to being a victor. And now you are ready to take the next steps, because now you will be honest with yourself and say, listen, you know what? I was in the army, but in the army, I never fired a pistol once. And the last time I fired a gun was 30 years ago. So maybe I should start learning how to effectively use this pistol and get to an accredited instructor and go for some training so that I know how to use this pistol effectively. And that's when you start losing all this bullshit. You stop assuming, you are brutally honest with yourself. And now you are ready to start taking the next steps.
Well, look, yeah, I was in the army, but you have to be honest with yourself. You were in personnel, or you were at the chef school, or you were at signals. You were never combat trained for a start. You went at infantry school or wherever. But you think because you did some basic training in the army 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you can do this. It's a vicious assumption. And we've got this assumption as well, especially as Afrikaner people, that we're descendants from the Boers who fought the war against the British,
Yes.
type of
Yes.
thing. We need to get away from that. Dion, what would the next steps be?
Just on that point, I think if you look at the Boers, those boys were walking around with rifles in their hands from the age of 6, and they were hunting with those rifles. So by the time that boy was 13, he had 6 or 7 years of using that rifle on almost a daily basis. So for him to start using that rifle in a battle capacity, it's just an easy transition, or an easier transition. So
and how that somehow translates directly to any person being able to fight a war or fight a fight. I don't understand. You need to train yourself first.
Yes.
And familiarize yourself.
Like we discussed last week, about the Spartans, creating that warrior environment and mindset. So usually if somebody has actually moved to this point, they will now start researching stuff like, what is the procedure to get a firearm license? What are the costs involved? What type of firearm I should get? And how will I carry that? And what type of ammunition, and so on and so forth. So you can actually see someone who has crossed to this point. They are now eager to learn, eager to research. They start asking the right questions. And maybe a word of warning here, because usually they don't ask the right questions to the right people. So just careful of that. So once you move into this pool, you will be in contact with a lot of people who know, but also a lot of people who think they know. And this is where you need to get in front of the reputable instructors who've also been around the block, you know. Look at our season 1 impact talks. We've interviewed a bunch of these instructors. Look on our homepage. There are links to all of these people. These are the people you should be talking to, not your buddy who has had his firearm for 2 years and shoots every third Saturday or every once a month. He's not the expert. He will have something to tell you, but he will share his own experience with you. But at the end of the day, you will have to get wider experience to that. So a reputable instructor has had hundreds or thousands of people in front of him with a variety of everything, and had a lot of questions and scenarios that he had to deal with over his time. And he will be better able to advise you. So those are the people you need to ask the questions. So I always smile when I look at some of the advice on some of the Facebook groups, you know, from people who know. And then I can clearly see who has and who hasn't been in a real life situation before. So the next steps will obviously automatically lead you down the path to the next step, where you become kitted or equipped. So where you start, you've now started investing in a firearm. So obviously what's next? There's a holster. What carry position, what carry condition, a pouch for your magazines, a belt to put all that on, a medical kit, and so forth. For instance, a plate carrier. My advice to anybody who wants to buy a plate carrier is to first buy the outer without the plates. Just buy the vest. Don't buy any pouches. Just train with that vest for a month or 2, and then start thinking, where do you want to put your pouches? You know, move with that thing, work it, because people buy vests that come with AR pouches, rifle magazine pouches, and these same people don't own a rifle. So now I'm sitting with these rifle pouches, you know, or I've got this set holster on my vest for my pistol, but I'm not allowed to carry my pistol here if I'm a civilian. So stuff like that. So the setup will obviously...
They end up being cigarette, packets of cigarettes.
Well, I think the first and most important pouch is a utility pouch, you know, where you put your cigarettes and your bar one and so on. That's very important shit. That you can't go without that. Sure. Bar one is important. So yeah, I think we'll obviously have an in-depth look into kit as we'll. I think we'll expand the series into a discussion about different types of kit, and maybe talk to different people who sell kit, so that we can understand why and what. But for now, if you stop assuming and you stop spreading fear and you start learning, that's when you start gaining knowledge and you become empowered. And that then will lead you to the next step, which is, okay, this is what kit I need. And then I start buying that kit. And now I need to start training with that kit, which is then step 5.
Look, and just for those who think we are, you know, who's got a question in his mind that, you know, am I going to be wearing my vest all the time? You know, do I have to be carrying my gun everywhere I go type of scenario? I don't think we're in South Africa there yet, where we're in Rhodesia, where there was like a full-scale war almost going on. In any social gathering, the men had to carry the guns and the kit and equipment with them if they go out. If you're out on a farm, I would say we're probably at that point almost already. Wherever you go, you need to be kitted and equipped whenever you go out on a farm, but probably not there yet in the cities. But will we get there? Probably. Things, if the rates keep going the way it's going, we're going to end up like a Rhodesia, where you go for a braai with your friends, you have to take all your kit and equipment with you. Everybody's standing around the fire having a good time, but the guns are right nearby, and everybody's wearing a vest. So sounds maybe like paranoia, but that's probably where we end up if the things keep carrying on the way it does.
Well, I definitely, what I currently advise clients to do, if they're on the farm, I advise farmers to drive around with their vests in their bakkie. You know, it must be there to grab, plus their medical kit and their firearms on their body, you
Yes.
know, because I need to get that firearm and get it out and put the shots down. But if shit escalates and I do have time to put on the vest, it doesn't help me if the vest is in the house.
Yeah.
And then obviously at night, that vest needs to move from the bakkie into the house with me.
Yeah.
So if something happens and I've got the time, I've got my layers of defense set up and I can wake up, then I need to put on that vest and I need to start reacting and have that vest with me and on me. And in towns as well, we've got a lot of people doing patrols, you know, as CPF members or so forth. Those guys need to understand the vest. And even if you don't patrol, you need to have a vest that you can grab close to hand. Because as you say, we are definitely reaching that point very, very, very fast.
Everybody's standing around the fire wearing the vests. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, bad. We're all going to look like Navy SEALs. Fucking, where are you going? I'm going to the movies. In swords and grenades and shit.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Dion. All right. We're going to continue with this with our next video. So tune in as we release them.
Thank you so much.
All
Stay
right.
safe out there.
Yes.
Cheers.